Sorry,
It's all good.
you were buried. You were buried under three windows.
And now we would love to turn it over to Rootridge, who I believe is here, and Kimberlyn, if she is also here, for a tour of HSPH. And Rootridge, please let me know if you want to share your screen.
So actually, I'll be sharing my screen so that Ruthvij can read his notes while presenting. So if we could give that feature. Great, great. Okay, I'll share it right now. Can everyone see my screen? Yes, okay.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Himaja.
Of course. Let me know when you're ready.
Yep, all set. Okay, everyone. So welcome to the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. It would have been fantastic to have all of you come out to Longwood, and we could have taken you for a little tour of the Longwood campus and showed you our school in person. But I mean, this is the next best thing. So we wanted to start a little bit by reading you a statement engraved on the side of our central building, which is basically, it's pictured below, and it's borrowed from the Constitution of the World Health Organization. The full line is essentially the enjoyment of the highest attainable standard of health is one of the fundamental rights of every human being without distinction of race, religion, political belief, economic or social condition. We think that this is important because it really commits the school to a rights-based understanding of healthcare. And this is, I think this is a little bit political, and it's good that the school takes a stance on it straight away and has put this on its building because especially in the US, the rights-based idea of health is not one that has broad consensus. It does in the public health community, but not outside. So it's, I personally really like that when I visited the school and read this on one of the central buildings, that the school is committed to this notion of what health entails. Next slide, please, Imaja. Thank you. So yeah, here you can see the beginnings of HSPH. So we actually began as the Harvard MIT School of Health Officers, founded in 1913 as the first professional public health training program in the US. There were courses offered in preventive medicine at HMS, sanitary engineering at Harvard University, and other subjects allied to those areas of preventive medicine and sanitary health at MIT. So we got a grant from the Rockefeller Foundation in 1922, which led to the school splitting off from MIT. And in 1946, the school split from the medical school and became an independent degree granting body. So the building that you can see at the left of that photo, the very pretty one with the arches, was on Shattuck Street, and it housed HSPH during the early years. And the building on the right is Gordon Hall, pride of HMS, and that was supposed to be a sister building in terms of architecture to the Shattuck building, which housed HSPH. Next slide, Himaja. So the modern day HSPH is the building on the left. It's not perhaps as beautiful in terms of its architecture, but it's quite a labyrinth inside. If you go in and have the pleasure of visiting one day, there are actually 3 buildings that are connected with underground tunnels, so you can go from one to the other in the winter. And in 2014, the Harvard School of Public Health was renamed the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. So a donation was received from a Chinese entrepreneur, T.H. Chan. Interestingly, I was told this on the first day of school during orientation. We received 10 times the same amount of money that Hopkins did to call their school Bloomberg. So we received 10 times that amount to call our school T.H. Chan. So a bit of a feather in the cap for them. And then since then, we've worked on research from China to Taiwan, Poland, Cyprus, all over the world, essentially. Quite a few individuals tend to go on to work for the WHO, the World Bank. The school is very well connected with a lot of these multilateral institutions and sends a lot of students there. And then just some basic facts on the next slide. So we have 970 total students, As you can see, 601 of those are US citizens and permanent residents, 369 international students, higher proportion of female students to male students. And just a few highlights. So Atul Gawande, his book Being Mortal, some of you, I'm sure the people in HMS would be familiar with him. Sure, some of the others on the call would also be familiar with him. He has a professorship at the Public Health School. There's another really famous book known as the Green Book, which basically outlines a system for analyzing health systems across the world. It's acquired a lot of fame in the public health world in recent years. All of that work was also done at HSPH. And next slide, please, Himaja. And then shifting a little bit to the pandemic, we've had a lot of work done at HSPH in the pandemic era. Mark Lipsitch is a leading epidemiologist based at the school, and he's been very high profile in terms of figuring out how to advise people on navigating the holidays, homes, what to do, what not to do, masking up and all of that. Also, a wealth of studies have come out highlighting health disparities and disproportionate economic and social burdens on minority groups due to the pandemic. Not a lot of work done on COVID-19 vaccines. Perhaps that's something that's been covered by some of the other teaching hospitals affiliated with Harvard as opposed to the public health school. Next slide, please. So we thought we'd give you a little flavor of what it's like to be a student at HSPH currently. So we are, like all of you, remote. Yeah, I think a lot of people at the school have struggled with the pandemic and with Zoom classes over the course of this semester. If you take a look at the results here, a lot of people have said that it's quite difficult to learn remotely. We recently did a survey conducted through the Harvard Chan Student Association. A lot of report of Zoom and computer fatigue, time zone differences because the school has a significant international student body. And a really big win for us over the course of the semester was fighting for the right of international students to come to the US for the spring semester. So the administration is offering a hybrid option for these students to be able to come to the US. And that is something that everyone in the Student Association has worked really hard to enable. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, Himaja. Thank you. So yeah, we thought we'd close with just talking a little bit about where HSPH lies relative to the rest of Harvard. One of the issues with the school is that there is still a little bit of bias in terms of those who are coming from older families that are affiliated with the school, perhaps the student body and individuals who are from low resource settings and from the global south are not as well represented for a public health school that does a lot of work in the global south. We would say that HSPH has a greater percentage of international students compared to the other schools at Harvard, but that's definitely something that can be worked on. The current dean is Michelle Williams, and you can see all of the deans there in sequential order on the slide. And Michelle is the first woman, so that's excellent, and also the first leader who's not white and from a minority group. There's a big socioeconomic focus at the school right now, both in terms of improving diversity within the school, as well as improving our relations with the Mission Hill community. And that was the last thing that I wanted to touch on before we open it up for questions. The school has a somewhat troubled relationship with the Mission Hill community. So the Mission Hill area was predominantly African American. As the Longwood campus has expanded, there's been a little bit of gentrification that has taken place. A lot of the families that were in that area have had to move elsewhere due to changes in housing prices, rental prices, all of that stuff. So the school has really in recent years tried to think a little bit about how they can do more community-based participatory research. It's also a push on behalf of a push that a lot of my colleagues at the Harvard Chan Student Association are trying to champion, to try and get the students to focus a little bit more on the community that we are in, and critically think about what has been the impact of the school, its research, and its programming on the people who actually live in its immediate environment. I think we've done a lot of great work in terms of international connections. I would say Harvard Chan is probably the foremost US public health school when it comes to having connections with places like India, China, Southeast Asia. There's an active Harvard-India partnership, an active Harvard-China partnership. But perhaps looking local, as global health and public health is ultimately local, is a good strategy for the school and its leaders to pursue in the years to come. Yeah, I think we have a little bit of time still. So wanted to open it up for any questions that you have. Himaja is also at the public health school, so feel free to weigh in with any thoughts you have, Himaja.
Yeah, folks want to just raise hands if they have questions. I guess I'll start with one though, which is how are you guys affected? Have been affected both by COVID in terms of where you may be redirecting your focus, and also in terms of America's strained relationship with the rest of the world under the outgoing president. And I wonder how if the school has worked with those sorts of things and how it maybe has been addressed.
Yeah, I think that's a very pertinent question. So I'll talk about the second piece first. So of course, the US has pulled out of the WHO, which Biden, once he comes into power, will has promised to fix. I would have liked to see a lot more advocacy work done by the organization when Trump made that announcement to say that we need to lean in. I did see some op-eds and pieces written by individuals, especially in the Global Health and Population Department, which is most adjacent at the school to international work. But I think all of those were written in a personal capacity. There was no institutional position really, to my knowledge, taken to suggest that we need to be reaffirming our commitment to the international community at this time, especially in the middle of a pandemic. I think so that was a little bit of a gap. And in terms of COVID-19, so I think on the epidemiology and biostatistics side, those departments have been doing a lot of fantastic work when it comes to COVID-19. I mentioned Lipsitch earlier. He's definitely a bit of a COVID czar, and someone who's done work on this for a very long time. We've also had the health policy departments, which is my department, and the global health department doing a lot of work around the impact of COVID on minorities and on socioeconomic and groups that are not that are socioeconomically disadvantaged. So I think the research focus of the school has shifted a little bit, as it should, given the pandemic. And I would say that there might be more money coming into public health post COVID-19, which is, to the school's advantage. And I think some of the research has shifted that way.
Cool, thank you. Brett, do you have a question? You went up and then down.
Yeah, I put it down. I'll ask it later.
Okay, great. So Rachel.
And then we'll have Rachel be the final question before moving forward.
Right. I was really interested to learn that you were attracted to the political side of the school, and I was just wondering how that manifests in particular initiatives or in any ways beyond, if you like, what's on the side of the building.
Sorry, come again, Rachel. You said I was attracted to the political side of the school?
Yeah, the fact that it was grounded in human rights.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering how that manifests more locally, political initiatives are at the school, how do they follow through on that commitment to rights?
Yeah, so I think in terms of what the faculty stand for, you will find that that a lot of people were very closely affiliated with the ACA and did a lot of work in Washington with regards to pushing Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act forward. You won't find that the faculty and the school in general have a lot of people who don't really support this idea of health as a human right. So I think there's very much a broad consensus around building strong primary health systems, pushing universal health coverage. I think the one criticism that I have of the school when it comes to the politics piece is And I think that's one way in which they don't live this health as a human right paradigm, is there isn't as much of a focus on decolonizing, what I like to call decolonizing global health. So that the space for that conversation is perhaps not as robust as I and some other people would like. So when I say decolonizing, I mean things like the disproportionate impact that people at institutions like Harvard who are not working in low-income communities in the US or elsewhere have on shaping how healthcare is delivered in these communities. And I think the push towards community-based participatory research that I spoke about earlier within Mission Hill is like an example of how I guess people are trying to address that at the school. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Absolutely, thanks.
Great. Thank you guys so much for the presentation. And I just also want to give credit to Kimberlyn. She really helped us put together the presentation and actually worked with a historical archivist at the university to put together the info. So we're really grateful for her and for you, Ruthvij, for giving the presentation. Thank you guys.
All right. So we'll go back to, thank you again, as well, Fridge, and Himija, who also represents HSPH on the executive board, and helps us all think better about these things. So now we will move to the public comment portion, and we're actually a minute early, which I don't think we've ever been. And we have at first public comment reserved some time for Peter, our Vice Chair of Governance, to speak about the motion that we had actually sent out to all of the representatives. So take it away, Peter.
So just as a part of the public commenting period, I'm gonna just introduce what the idea of this is, allow for some discussion as per a lot of time. And then at the way end, on the approval section, we'll do a formal vote to approve. Since normally in Robert's rules, the motion to suspend, you can't actually do a formal debate. So for the public commenting in terms of motion to suspend, one of the conversations the governance committee and the executive board has been having is about the one primary, one alternate rep amendment that was passed last year as part of the Constitution. And we understand that there are a couple schools who have additional alternate reps, and we've heard comments from reps as well as executive board members that we would love for them to participate as part of the HGC General Council, at least for this year. And we understand that with COVID, that there is a lot of difficult situations. So we want to be as understanding as possible. With that, it's important to at least consider the motion to suspend in the spirit of that conversation. But I am definitely open to hearing the debates on this topic. So with that, I'm going to relinquish the floor to the reps and the exec board. Yep, Brett.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit against this, and the exec board, I kind of already voiced it to them. I guess my bigger thing would be, I think this is going to be something that is an amendment in the bylaws that are going to be proposed. And because we kind of started the year with this 2-rep system, we've already bought the swag for the 2 reps. And when we passed the budget for meal expenses, it was with 2 reps per school in mind. I just think that it would make sense to stay consistent and to just keep things as is. And I want to just shed some light for the reason why this is the way it is in the first place, is I think that it just provided a little bit more equity to all the schools to provide inputs during discussions. And some schools, if you had 4 people, you can oftentimes dominate discussions more, and it just allows for a little bit more even-tempered meeting. So I'm against it.
Okay, so I saw Diego, Hugh, and Will. So we'll start with Diego.
Thanks, Peter. So I am for this motion for the simple reason that I don't think that right now there is a significantly good reason to exclude people who want to be part of the conversations to be part of the conversation. I don't think it's going to affect a big enough group of people to really affect the budget. Like Brett, you were saying, I'm not convinced that is something that should prevent people from being able to speak if they want. I also know that since this is a reoccurring issue, it would be, I think, unfair to revoke the status of being able to speak to people who thought they had it. And so for those reasons, I urge my fellow reps to vote for the amendment.
Okay, and unfortunately for the sake of speaking time, I'm gonna allow Hugh to be the last speaker for 2 more minutes.
Sure, maybe this is something that I just didn't understand, but I thought that even if you weren't a rep or an alternative rep, you would still be able to speak at these meetings. I didn't know that that was a restriction that we placed on folks. But correct me if I'm wrong. And I also think that, there's a lot of other work that needs to be done with the graduate council, whether that's in the external advocacy committee or on any other committees that might be open to people who are interested in participating. And I think we should encourage that as the predominant way that people can contribute.
Yeah, so just to add clarification, we did speak to Brian, our last year's president and our current executive at large, who informs us about HGC's history. He did explain that reps have the privilege to speak and contribute in the HGC General Council, and members of the public who are not alternate reps or primary reps or executive members are not allowed to participate in the debates except for during the public commenting period. So unfortunately with that, we are out of time. So we are going to move forward with the updates and reports. So Jojo, go ahead.
Can I actually make a motion to extend the time to allow other people to speak?
Yep, so motion to extend the time. How many minutes, Diego?
4.
Okay, motion to extend by 4 minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any dissent? All right, with that, motion passes. We'll extend it to 5:44. So the next person was Will or Willie? Will, go ahead.
It's Will. Thanks so much, everyone. And I'll be very quick. So I'm an elected rep of the Kennedy School. The 2 primary reps, well, the primary and the alternate, could not be here. I'm here in their lieu. But it looks like HKS is still not recorded as having a representative. I think it's important for schools in this situation where we have our own reps to like our own system elected. If 2 people can't, especially in this Zoom situation, I think we can be a little bit, I would appreciate it if we could be a little bit more flexible. I think a lot of the points that were raised initially against it by Diego, one around budgeting, you can just budget for 2 people on the alternate, the primary and the alternate can be the only 2. And then we have a second class of reps. I think that takes care of budgeting. I'm not here for swag. I'm here to help represent the Kent School. And then second, in terms of voting, anything can happen for voting. Every school can get 2 votes. We can have additional alternates. So appreciate the chance to voice my thoughts, but definitely as Kennedy School, we're in favor of this.
Okay, and then the last hand that I see is Rachel. You have 3 minutes. Or sorry, 2 minutes.
Okay, more than one thought, but so is it the case that, I mean, it is the case at the moment that some schools have different numbers of reps, right? So if we were to suspend the rules, it would be the case that some schools would be overrepresented or underrepresented vis-a-vis reps. Correct? Someone who knows?
That is correct in terms of speaking time.
Right, in terms of speaking time.
In terms of vote, every school still gets 1 vote.
Got it. And the sort of main reason why we want to suspend the rules is that, you know, we have certain reps in place who want to contribute, who are sort of, who don't want to have their role demoted. And the different schools have these reps for various reasons, but there's not sort of one main reason that we have all these additional reps. Also correct? Like there are different reasons. There's just not sort of one main reason. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
I'm sorry. Was there anything else?
No, I just wanted to just make those 2 points implicitly, that it seems as though the reason why we're in the situation we're in is that, we're sort of in this sort of ad hoc space. And so perhaps we need to make some principled decisions going forward about, how many reps do we want? And, do we want this sort of temporarily to have this sort of, imbalance, or, does this set a precedent, et cetera, et cetera? I think there are sort of bigger issues at play here is what I want to say.
Sounds good. Thank you, Rachel. And with that, Chinxi and Jojo.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. And thank you for all the comments. One thing to clarify for Will's point is that the representatives do have the opportunity to, yes, so Diego says rules suspension are temporary. The representatives who are elected and who are primary and alternate do have the ability to designate someone to come and serve as a representative and have that count for that specific meeting. So there are ways, I think, if you're not on the list at the moment on the roll call sheet at the top, it's probably just because we didn't know, and so we may have missed it. But at least, Will, for purposes right now, you would count and you would be part of that. Okay, so with that, we will move on to updates. We have 3 more minutes, but that's okay because we don't have too many updates. And I wonder, I don't know, Chinxi has been having issues.
Yeah, sorry. I actually just typed in there. We just wanted to just let everyone know that we're having a meeting with the Council of Deans of Students this Friday. And if there was any issues that reps wanted us to bring to that meeting to get a clarification from the deans, a lot of the issues that we already addressed in the past meetings, we have brought it up to the co-chairs of CODOS, but basically CODOS will have all of your deans of students together, and I was just wondering if there are any issues that reps wanted us to get an answer to or to advocate for. I just want to leave that there. If anyone wants to type on the agenda, go for it. It might save us a bit more time.
Everybody, ideally, I think actually if you can add it to the chat, then we can put it in under the minutes. That'll probably be great. And then just to build off what Chinxi said, we are also hopefully sometime before the end of the semester meeting. We'll have our semester meeting with the provost and the president of the university. Those are also, if you have anything, specifically you think that is worth bringing up with them, but those meetings tend to be limited. We have to go through their chiefs of staff, but just to let you know that we will be meeting with them so that the HGC still has some face time with both of them, and in suggestion that someone else had COVID-19 vaccine. Good idea, Hugh. And in response to some requests that we've heard, we are going to see if we can invite President back out to potentially join us for one of these meetings sometime in the next semester. I think that would be wonderful, and it would give him a chance to see all the work that all of you collectively do that is so important for the university. So with that, we will turn it over to finance a minute early.
Hey guys, so a couple updates then for the budget. Then we talked to Marshall about what the spring is going to look like. Obviously, it's been known now that most in-person events are not going to be taking place. So he's asking us to augment what we're thinking that we need for expenditures. This will kind of mostly be an exec board issue of them coming up with what they need for different expenses that they can see forecasting. But there's opportunity for anybody from this council as well. If you think of a good initiative that you want to bring forth that would have some justifiable expenses to it, that's open to you. So if that's something you want to do or pursue, just let me know and we can connect and do that. as of right now, then we did pass and present another check for the One Harvard Catalyst Fund for the HESA group for the One Harvard Cup, which was a thing that they're going to be wanting to do in the spring. So the exec board approved it last Monday, so we're going to give them $500 for that. I'm going to turn over to Saeed then to talk a little bit more about the expenses.
Good evening, everyone. Just two quick announcements on the meal reimbursement end. First of all, if you guys still have receipts that are outstanding and have not been submitted to the reimbursement site, reimbursement form, I'm going to put the link in the chat in just a moment, but please make sure you submit your receipts by tomorrow, by Wednesday, or no, by 2 days from now, by Wednesday. That gives you 48 hours so that we can, make our best effort to get you your checks by the holidays. That's our plan for now. We decided that we're going to be mailing you out a physical check. And as you'll see on the form, if you put reimbursement method, you put via mail, you indicate your address, your physical address, and that's how we'll send you your physical check. And we hope to do that before the end of the year and during the holidays. So that's that. Secondly, there were some questions that were raised regarding how many representatives are eligible for the reimbursement. Just to be clear, that will be the max of 2. So that means if you're coming from a school and you have one primary rep, that would make an alternate rep also eligible. So 1 primary, 1 alternate, but just in plain simple language, 2 reps is the max for the weekly reimbursement, and that's $20, the max allotted reimbursement for each meal. I think that's all. If there's any other questions, please put them in the chat or let me know, and I'll be happy to clarify. And I'll put the link just right now. So you guys can access it. That's all for me.
Thanks, Saeed. So for the operations and governance updates, I'm going to start here with the constitutional amendments. So the governance committee has met, and we got more feedback, spoke to the executive board, and we fully refined the amendments. In order to prevent us from spending too much time on this and just to be time sensitive, I think the most appropriate action here is to sort of consider this entire document as just like a multi-amendment motion. And so I would encourage one of the reps to open the motion to amend the Constitution and to open debate. So one of the things that I just want to point out is that this is a document that will be made available to the public. It will be not editable, but it will be commentable. Under the Constitution, the period that the commenting period needs to be open is 2 weeks minimum before voting on it. Obviously, we're at the end of our meeting this semester, so we will be reintroducing this either at the first or second meeting of next semester. And every constitutional amendment requires a 3/4 vote to pass. One of the other things that I want to point out is that if the council passes on a constitutional amendment, it doesn't become active immediately. It does need to be sent to our provost office, and they need to approve of it. And that could take some time. So just in terms of these amendments, it's really important to consider the scope of all of these amendments, not within immediately this year, but the amendments that we're passing at the beginning of spring semester will likely take into effect for spring elections of this year. And then we'll introduce another set of amendments, because this is half. We'll introduce the second half of the amendments at the end of the school year, like we do with every HGC council. And those will take into effect the next academic year, if that makes sense. So just to repeat, none of the amendments that are listed on here will have enough time to be enacted within this academic year. It will only be enacted by somewhere at the end of spring semester in time for elections. So because this is more of a committee report period, we can't make the motion yet, but in the action item section, I encourage someone either on the governance committee or one of the reps to make a motion to amend and to open debate. All right, and with that, I'm going to pass it over to Himitra.
Thank you. My updates are super fast because we have a lot to go through. Peter and I have been reaching out to, and our governance committee, shout out to them. We've all been reaching out to our different reps to pull together information on your different election processes, just to inform the way we're drafting the amendment. So if you can give us that information, if you haven't already, please do so. Shout out to the schools who have already done so. Thank you very much. Another quick thing, I sent out a secret Santa RSVP link. Please fill it out. It would be great to have everyone involved. We are planning on closing down RSVP on December 6th, and then I'll be able to match everyone, and then we'll be having a meeting on the 21st to share our gifts and reconnect and just really have a space to talk and get to know each other further. Thank you.
Student life.
All right, and with that, we're going to give the floor to student.
Okay, thank you, Jojo and Peter. We don't have a lot of updates for this week. So me and Amran are building up an end of year report. It will include all the events that we hosted this year, and we're also trying to put all the resources there to share with the reps from a student life perspective. It's not ready yet. We'll make sure it's ready by December 20th. So we'll send an email to everyone and make sure you have all the resources, and this document will be ready after 2 weeks. And the second updates I want to mention is that the last event we're hosting is a health and wellness series, a final exam wellness series. So it includes a yoga with Miss Formal Universe, Natalie Glebova, and a virtual escape room. So this will be the last event we're hosting this semester. Well, basically, we'll just be posting posters like on our social media, and we are asking for your help to repost on your social media. And overall, we just want to say thank you so much for everyone for your support for our Grad Fest, Medicine in Motion event, and our student life initiatives. And we just wish everyone a happy and healthy, safe holiday. And I would pass this to Amran. Is Amran still here? Sorry, she has to leave today.
Yes, she's on the list. So I'm reading. Well, I don't know.
Well, that's all. That's all the updates for student life. So thank you so much, everyone. Oh, she's here. She's here.
No, we can't, and I can't see you either. So I think you might be having some internet issues. Signal in the chat if you have anything to add.
Yeah, Emory is the one hosting the virtual escape room. We'll just post everything on our social media, and we ask the reps to repost for us. This will be the last event for this year.
Great. That brings us to, sorry, Peter, we moved, advocacy.
Yeah, hi everyone. So just to give a little bit of
Oh, Abhinaya, I can't hear you. I don't know if it's just me.
No, I can't either. I think we may have lost Abhinaya now.
Well, she's frozen on my screen, image-wise.
and want to be more involved, please do not hesitate.
I can hear now.
Okay, let's, yeah. While you work on that, and maybe it'll help if you turn off the camera, let's move to information and communication, and then we can double back to advocacy. So Tara.
Okay, so thank you everybody for submitting, whoever submitted the intros, appreciate it. The first one has gone up and the rest will be going up soon this month, every day or every 2 days. So thanks a lot for that, that's super exciting. And just to update on the podcast, I am just going to be sending out a form in the chat, and I'll also send it via email. But we are actually planning to now launch the podcast in the spring, so the beginning of the January semester. So we're going to take the month of December and beginning of January just to collect and organize content. So if any of you are interested in being a part of the podcast, if you want to host an episode and talk about your school and anything that's going on, like any advocacy efforts or any projects that are super interesting or you're passionate about or you're working on, it doesn't have to be like directly involved with a professor, like maybe it's a thesis or like maybe doing it independently or even outside of school. It'd be great for people to hear about what's going on with the graduate schools, which is really exciting because I feel like there isn't that much of a connection. Like listening to a podcast is a great way to like know what's going on in like different spaces and get to know more about the world in general, which is really exciting. So yeah, if you have any ideas, I'll send this in an email. So just like it could be like literally anything, you know, we're not gonna like reject anything. We'll definitely consider whatever you send. So yeah, look into that if anybody's interested. And yeah, looking forward to that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Tara. And it appears that we've completely lost Abhinaya now. So hopefully, maybe we'll be able to get her back. And if not, then the updates are written in the agenda, and hopefully she'll be able to update us with anything else through writing, chat, and if she is able to come back, then maybe she can give a quick update after our presentation. We are actually, I believe, still waiting for our individual who is presenting, who I guess I'll start doing a quick introduction for, or actually I guess Himaj or Peter, because you were looking at ones who reached out to. Do either of you want to do just a quick overview of who our speaker is for this evening?
Yeah, for sure. So Jason is on the Harvard University of the Board of Overseers. For those of you who don't know, Harvard has two primary governing boards. A lot of other schools have like a singular board of trustees, whereas Harvard has a board of overseers and then the president and fellows of Harvard College. So the board of overseers is an elected 6-year there's 6-year positions, and because they're staggered, the elections happen periodically. Harvard Forward was a movement to sort of encourage Harvard alumni to advocate for Harvard alums to run for a position under Harvard Board of Overseers, as a substantial portion of the current Harvard Board of Overseers does not have Harvard alum on them. And Jason is not only a Harvard alum who got onto this very prestigious board, but he's also a very young and recent graduate, I believe, of the School of Public Health. So he, through the support of Harvard Forward, you know, and all the alumni support, was able to sort of get onto one of the two highest governing boards of Harvard University, and a lot of the issues that you know, you are concerned with, whether that be strategic direction on Harvard moving forward in various administrative and higher executive level conversations that we've all heard the reps sort of say. The Board of Overseers plays a very significant advisory role to the president and the fellows. So it's a really good opportunity to sort of pose the questions that's been itching away in your respective constituencies. Himaj, anything to add to that?
That was beautifully said. And this is totally a selfish plug, but he studied environmental health, and that's the program I'm in. So I was super excited. So he studied at the public health school and focused on environmental health epi. So that was his background in that.
Yeah, and then a really fun piece of information. I don't know, Peter, if you mentioned it. He used to actually serve on the HGC executive board for 1 year, and I think he was also the rep from HSPH for maybe the year before that. So I actually knew Jason from when we worked together before he graduated. So that was really cool. And then another thing that some of you guys may have mentioned, and also to Peter as well, and it's also something that we might try to ask Jason about. It's like, how can we get HGC more involved in these like avenues? Oh, there's Jason. Hey, Jason. And that might be something that we can, ask Jason about, but I'll let him get started.
Great. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Yeah, glad to be here. And happy to speak and talk with you guys. I guess just some background on me is, so I graduated from the School of Public Health in 2019. I studied environmental health. I was part of HGC for a year and a half, serving as vice chair for social engagement. So I did a lot of work doing things like small group dinners and working on the masquerade ball and whatnot. As you know, or to hear of, for about a year, I was part of Harvard Forward, which was a group of alumni, students, and faculty that were working to get 5 individuals elected to Harvard's Board of Overseers, which serves as the highest elected governing board for the university. So doing a lot of work from that, which included a lot of direct outreach to alums, various campaign events, speaking on panels and presentations. As one of the 3 individuals that from the Harvard Forward slate that were elected from the 5 in this year's Board of Overseers. So now I'm currently serving a 6-year term. And the board itself includes 30 individuals, and we do work on basically anything regarding the strategic development of the university. So we do a lot of review of academic programs, as well as reviewing kind of university actions. And we also work with the Harvard Corporation, which puts the dollars and cents to act. I currently am based in Atlanta, Georgia, where I work for the EPA. But yeah, happy to be here and happy to answer any questions.
Jason, I'll start. Sorry my video is off because I'm having Wi-Fi issues, but it's really good to see you, even though you can't see me. But yeah, I guess my first question is, what made you interested to get involved with Harvard Forward? Or actually, if you can also even tell us a bit about what Harvard Forward is, because I know even though some of us did vote on maybe either this year or last year to support the Harvard Forward initiative, I feel like a lot of us might not really know what that is. So we'll start off with that question.
Yeah, so basically, honestly, I just, I was, last September, I was sitting around and so I recently, like I said, graduated that year. And I was looking at ways to basically get more involved in environmental efforts and actions that were outside of just my work. So I was thinking, like, do I start, like my own blog site, just to write a lot of op-eds. So at that time, I got contacted by Nathan Goldberg, who's one of the co-founders of Harvard Forward. And they were just pitching the idea about, getting like basically, what are your thoughts on this? And like I said, the main goal is they were looking at Harvard University's basically inaction on fossil fuel divestment, and also looking at the amount of climate education that was at the university. This has been an ongoing issue. A lot of faculty have supported divestment, and a lot of students have been pushing it for years. And then in terms of climate education, there had been a survey that had gone out through all grad students where 2/3 of them said that their school had been lacking. So this was a lot of stuff coming forth. So Harvard Forward's goal was to kind of address some of these main concerns. How can we basically, if we get individuals elected on the Board of Overseers, will those individuals have the ability to work to drive the university away from fossil fuels, increase climate education, and just take some more of these things in account. So yeah, I got asked then, and just basically with my background, like while I was at Harvard, I was also involved in the Climate Leaders Program and the Councils for Student Sustainability Initiative. So I did a lot of work around campus. So a lot of this was on my forefront. So when I got asked, I don't know how many exactly candidates they interviewed, but they reached out to a decent amount of people to select 5. And from that, once I said I was interested in, ended up being one selected, I started the process. And yeah, it went from October to August in terms of from us announcing our candidacy to election. But yeah, and in terms of like how we got on the ballot and everything, we needed petition signatures. Last year was around 3,000. I think this year's still about the same. And yeah, from any alums were able to sign. And from there, and then we were elected from over 40,000 alumni voted, and yeah, we were elected from that pool. So that's just kind of like a general overview.
Oh, thanks. Brett, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, Jason, thanks for coming. I think it's a pretty big deal that you're here because I've only heard of the Board of Overseers as like a legendary mythical group. So to see somebody in person is quite a deal. I'm curious, like, is the experience like what you're expected? Like, I'm imagining like you as like a new young person coming into this. Like, was it kind of filled with a lot of people who have been there for decades? Is the content of what you do like really rigorous? Is it really demanding? Is it what you expected at all? Do you do a lot with like university policy? Do you tell Larry what to do? I just have all sorts of questions.
No, that's fair. So it is funny when you say it's like a mythical thing. So fun fact, like Board of Overseers minutes and documents are like I think it's like a 50-year withheld. So you can't know exactly what's being talked about until 50 years, which I mean, I don't think that's really transparent. So yeah, there's not a lot of public facing or outreach. I will say being one of the other thing, it's one thing, it's like we're doubling up here. So I'm coming in as one of the youngest in the room. I might be me and one of the other colleagues from Hartford's Midge might be the two youngest people elected on the board, like ever. And so there is a notion, and especially also then we were also running as a petition candidate. So it's kind of, like in theory running against an establishment. So I at least say during the campaign process, it was interesting because there was stuff kind of said about us that wasn't really true. But then people hear that, so then you're like coming to like actually meet with people, and you're like, hey, here's this person. I'm not, just for example, I'm not funded by billionaires or anything. So yeah, I guess my experience with it so far, it's been interesting. The workload is not too much. There's like there's 5. When it's not a pandemic, there's 5 weekend meetings a year. One that includes over commencement. So during that, we meet, like I said, 30 of us plus the 8 corporation members and then the president. So we have various committees. Like I said, committees can focus on like academics. So it can focus on like you can be on a committee that's reviewing all the natural science schools or the medical programs or business or looking at like finance. So we do our committee work, and basically, yeah, in terms of like policies and things, it includes anything that you think of, whether it's policies regarding the stance on fraternities and social clubs at the university, or COVID policies, or reviewing plans for expansion, or sustainability efforts and net zero. It's a broad range of topics. And like I said, and a key role that we do play is we also review all faculty that come up for tenure, and also technically certify all degrees in terms of some more on the academic side. But yeah, it's been interesting. I'll be honest, like I said, we only really had one, like our first meetings were, over Zoom. So it's kind of hard to get a feel. And it was interesting. I mean, during the first meeting, this is out in the Clemson, so, but, there was the vote for that changed the Board of Overseers election policies, and that was interesting for our first meeting. So yeah, still kind of get a feel of things, and still trying to basically network and meet people and see how you can kind of bring you know, those ideas that we had in Harvard Forward and, you know, kind of put those in practice. But yeah.
I wish Abinah was here. She got dropped off, but she's our chair for advocacy. If like students had like issues, is like the Board of Overseers like an appropriate group that we could like send letters to or voice concerns for? Is there like a public comment for students to talk at those types of things? I just have never gotten exposure to it before.
So to answer your question, no, it's not currently a public comment. But to also answer your question, that is something that me and the other two candidates that were elected from our forward are looking into, is how to basically get more exposure with students and be more public facing, like whether it's through town halls, you know, through, like I said, comic books, website, you know, an email. I will say for me, and I think part of it is, you know, I'm trying to be as transparent as possible. You know, I've been trying to respond to any requests I get. I know, but I would say that most individuals on the board probably wouldn't. Not saying that they won't, but you know, it's just like there's a lot coming in. But that is something that definitely are looking at, and I think the plan is to kind of talk about that during the next meeting, kind of see, at least kick the idea around. But right now it's not as transparent, and that is one thing that I can really say that I'm, you know, working to at least try to, at a minimum, you know, help get students understand what the Board of Overseers does, and like, you know, what, you know, and especially because that at least will help, you know, alums when they're doing elections for future students. But yeah, definitely looking to get more, you know, transparency to students and see how we can actually work to best, you know, help them in their efforts.
Really sorry, had a hand up.
Thank you. I feel like I'm back in a Zoom seminar. Hi, Jason. Thank you so much for coming back to talk to us. Maybe you experienced this as someone who is also a representative for the HGC in your time here, but it feels very difficult to get any change done, especially with an administration that seems to have its interests better served by not doing anything. So I was wondering, as someone on the Board of Overseers, to what extent you can, or you as like someone on the board / the Board of Overseers writ large, what like leverage you have over like material change at the university, and also what is being done / what plans you all have for widening like healthcare at the university. So for example, I represent the Divinity School, and our biggest issue at the Divinity School right now is widening therapy services, like individual therapy for students, and also getting COVID testing for students who aren't just living in Harvard housing.
Yeah, no, those are good questions. Basically, in terms of like what I can do and what the board as a whole can do is, I mean, like I said, we make the recommendations, you know, like I said, we speak, like I said, we have, you know, meetings with the president and the corporation role on this, and we have open discussions on all these topics and issues. In terms of what we do, so we actually didn't do a decent amount in terms of, you know, if there's something that's really looking to be changed, if realistically, if the majority or a decent amount of the board overseers, you know, recommend it, that's a strong signal to act on. So our position does sway, does have power in the sense that we can, you know, we kind of serve as a point. Now it has to, you know, we have to kind of build to the point, you know, for things, like it has to be an action that can get, and that's kind of where we're looking at. It's like, you know, if we are trying, like if I'm or some other groups are looking to change, how can we get more parties on board with us to, you know, be like, yes, we agree, or let's move forward with this. And then I guess in terms of the second question about health and like the COVID policy, I'll take that a note. So that's something that obviously is consistently getting reviewed, and you know, as you'll look, and I'll see about raising kind of those points, or just see what I can basically hear kind of if there's an update with that regarding, because as you said right now, you said that there's only COVID testing for students in Harvard housing. So if you don't live in Harvard housing, you're not able to get a COVID test?
It's for people in Harvard housing, and I think to an extent, maybe all freshmen, and also people who need to be in labs, I believe, regardless of whether or not they're in Harvard housing.
So I'll take that to note, because I think that's a good point, and kind of see why that was the decision, especially because realistically, I mean, I guess realistically this will continue. But yeah, no, that was definitely a good thing of note, and especially and something on my mind is since being from public health. But I'll take that note.
I'm just going to jump back in here. Yeah, so Jason, as you probably can kind of remember too, I think one of the challenges that HGC faces is like we've got a lot of students that we serve, and then all of a sudden, like when we try to do our advocacy efforts and we get perspectives and we have our meetings and so forth, and we kind of come up with these problems, but then it gets like bottlenecked because I think Chancey and Jojo then have to take those issues to then probably Marshall's office. And then they only get to meet with President Bacot like twice a year, and that's kind of like, the only touch points that we maybe like feel like we're getting as like a student voice. And so, man, like if there's like opportunity to try to like get something established, like I know that some models like they have on a board like yours, like an ex officio student, or just like even like a coffee talk, especially like you being a young overseer. I think like I know Ab and I would maybe probably like to just have a discussion with you at some point to try to set up like some sort of like regular, like, hey, could we find other avenues for student voices? I know that there must be student committees that maybe could stand to have like a student seat on there. But I think that that's just like one of the things that we found to struggle with a little bit. And anybody, please correct me if I'm wrong, is we're serving a lot of students as HGC, but then we get bottlenecked with like how far up we're able to get it. And then that's just a challenge, I know. So food for thought. Yeah, no. So like I said, one of our big things was increasing like student engagement, in governance. That was something that when I was at the public health school, in our public health student government, we were trying to do, and with Hard Forward, it's another thing. And as quoted by what came out from our vote in September, is they said, yes, we are looking to have students be serve on some more of these committees and opportunities. So the answer to that question is, I think there will be opportunities, and especially being from HGC, I think that holds well. Like I think there is position, and again, in terms of like I keep saying like things I can note. Like I said, I think I'll see if I can get a touch point on hearing like what are the thoughts, like what are we going to do to increase student engagement? Like, are we going to, like, how are we selecting new people to serve on the committees? What committees will those be? And how will students kind of be selected? And then I guess in terms of about the regular kind of chats and things, like I said, I myself am, well, I make myself very available, probably too available, but I think definitely setting time to meet is not something that's bad. I think, like I said, I want, like, the goal between us was to increase engagement and actually let people know what's going on, or at least like what our role is. So I think setting those things up would be well. And like I said, I'm happy to speak. I'm happy to see if I can get other overseers at Min, or at least the other overseers from Hard Forward to chat. And depending on things, like I said, I know we were kicking around at one point during a town hall or things. So we might be able to at some point discuss kind of like, if that would be a thing or other ways. But yeah, happy to be in contact and to also investigate, see like what committees or how students actually can be involved, because like I said, students can, and they're looking for new ways. So I can see in our next meeting about that.
I think we have time for one more point if anyone else has a question for Jason.
Especially a rep. We'd love to hear from our reps.
No, well, I think, Rachel.
Jason, thanks so much for coming. I'm the rep for GSAS. Just from your sort of time, obviously on the inside, on the outside, what do you think we're likely to get the most movement on issue-wise? So, if there are various sort of different issues that we might bring to your attention. But in terms of the types of issues that you think the overseers are receptive to, can you give us a sense of what we could get the most movement on?
Yeah, so I think in my statement, I think overseers do a lot, but I'll say at least while we were running, and we're running like for hard forward on like divesting from fossil fuels, a lot of things we were presented at is the overseers work on academic issues and areas, and they don't handle exact financing and all this specifically. And I have thoughts on that. So I'll just say overseers do a lot. So that's just my answer on that. But in terms of specifically, I think anything that you can put some type of spin that deals with improving some academic policy program. So whether it's improving the student experience, increasing access to well-being. I mean, I think stuff like we were talking about like the COVID testing stuff around like mental health and well-being. I think because that's directly thinned and being tied to work. I think the biggest thing is I'll just say is I think the board of overseers does a lot, and the biggest thing is to make it not be like it's something that is not in their purview, and depending on how strict you I guess our top committee follows, it depends. But to be honest, I'll say is that we can look at most issues, and I think in terms of getting traction on it, the biggest thing is it important? Is there a lot of students that'll do it? Does it impact a lot of students? Is it beneficial? Is it controversial or not controversial? For me, I mean, that's not a factor for me, but kind of like, what's the shakeup? Will it look like? But yeah, I'd say just basically in coming with a thorough and developed plan and policy. I'll always be honest, say a lot of people have ideas and things, but coming with a well-crafted plan, and getting it signed off either by, it's HGC, so you're a high group, but whether it's departments, schools, deans, getting that sign off from those high-level officials really goes a long way.
Thanks, Jason. So with that, we're going to wrap up the conversation there. But Jason, thank you so much for attending our General Council meeting. It's really an honor to have a member of the Board of Overseers. And I know that, having a member of the Board of Overseers come to our council meeting has been anticipated for a long time. So we're very excited that you could join us today.
Yeah, happy to be able to stop by. Yeah, feel free, like I said, if you guys have any, if I can help in any way, feel free to just reach back out. But yeah, happy to be here and happy to stop by, and good luck with the rest of your work this year.
Thank you.
All right, so we are moving on to motions. Let's take the open constitutional one first, because I imagine that one will be quicker. And so what we need is just a motion from one of the representatives. Are we doing this the dissent vote way, Peter?
Yeah, so Jojo, since we kind of had the discussion already and motion to suspend doesn't allow debate, we're just going to go with the dissent and move forward with voting.
Right. Okay. No, but how do you want to vote? Do you want to set up a poll? Do you want to have people? I can set up.
Let's do a poll.
Okay.
You can either do a poll or a hand raise, unless someone requests an anonymous type of vote. Yeah, you could also just do a participant hand raise or yes, no kind of thing too.
So why don't I set up the poll in that case? So let me set up the poll, and while we're doing that, Hugh, if you want to announce the EAC matters coming up. I mean, I said that you would also have that, so I know we put it in the chat, but just if you want to say it.
Sure. Just in case anyone missed it there. So the External Advocacy Committee met for the first time with its current setup just last week. We voted on establishing the Environmental Justice Subcommittee, which, if you might remember, I presented about many months ago now, it feels like. And we are working on advertising an event that I facilitated organizing with a group at HMS that features Councilwoman Michelle Wu, who is also running for mayor of Boston, and Dr. Gaurav Basu, who works at the Cambridge Health Alliance, to discuss the Boston Green New Deal and its implications for climate justice. And if you remember, that was one of the primary goals of the Environmental Justice Subcommittee, to learn about and disseminate information about policies directly related to the Boston community, and the implications of those policies for climate in and around Boston. So it's something that I'm really excited to share with you all, and I'm hoping that I can get the support of my fellow representatives in advertising this event, as it's open to anyone. And I'm not sure what the best way to share information about it would be, whether that's like an email that I send to you all or something like that. But just sharing it widely with your schools would be greatly appreciated. And I'll take any questions if you have any.
Yeah, and Hugh, if you want to put that in the reps chat as well, that might be helpful to allow everyone to disseminate it. Okay, the poll is ready. So please, just generally rules.
Oh, Jojo.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I hate to be annoying, but can someone open the motion and somebody else second?
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, Russ.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to suspend the rules.
All right. Is there a second?
That was Rachel.
That was Rachel.
Thanks.
And then I put both votes in one poll. So maybe if we have anyone to motion to open the constitutional amendments, can we do that order, Peter?
Yep.
Okay. So any rep with a motion to open the constitutional amendments for public comment?
Motion to open for public comment. Rachel again.
Thank you, Rachel. Do we have a second?
Hugh seconds.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so now we will open the poll. Remember, for voting, just the representatives. If you are more than one representative here, feel free to confer privately, but it should be one vote per school, which means that we should have no more than, I think, 11 votes, because HBS is not here.
And then just so we have full transparency, reps, because this is a public vote, we will keep a voting record that is made available to the public, unless you wish to vote anonymously. You can request that as well.
Peter, can you confirm which schools do not have representatives here right now? I know the business school.
So business school came in, and so did HKS. Mm-hmm. Emily and Apoorva are here for HKS and business school, I believe.
Hi, it's Jess. I'm also here for HES. Sorry, I was late. I was in a meeting.
Okay. No worries. So we should have all 12 then, right? We have 11 votes right now. That's why I'm asking. So I guess HGSC will be the last. Okay, so I will end the poll. All right. I don't know if I can show the results. But the motion to temporarily suspend the rules passes 9 votes yay, 2 votes nay. Oh, we are sharing, great. And the motion to open the proposed constitutional amendments passes unanimously.
And then Jojo, could you just save the schools for voting record?
I will save this.
I can't see that. I think you can.
I should be able to. It's not anonymous, but I can't see it right now. I'm going to keep this open right now, so we're over time, so we can just make the last announcements and adjourn, and I will let you know what the breakdown is as soon as I can figure out how to do that.
Yeah. All right. So announcements is happy holiday. We hope everyone has a wonderful holiday break. Thanks for coming to our last HGC General Council meeting. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
I second it.
Apurva seconded.
All right. Is there any dissent? All right. With that, meeting is adjourned at 6:33. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Please keep the conversations going. We'll see you on the chat.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, I don't know. It said it was non-anonymous, but it's not letting me figure out how to share. I can share the results, but I can't see a breakdown.
Yeah, I can't see a breakdown either.
Hang on, I'm gonna quickly Google it.
Right.
People breakdown Zoom.
Yeah. Worst case scenario. Oh, I should stop the recording.
Turn off the recording.